Okay, Kal Kadosh. We're starting right now. This is Daf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. Okay? And basically like this, if you remember, we spoke about on the bottom of Membet Amubet, we were asking a question to do with what's the difference between whether it is that you're supposed to put a kli on top of something else in order to save it or not. And we said that the difference was if it was going to be shchiach or not shchiach, if it was common or not common. So we basically finished off by saying that nitzotzot was considered something which was common. So therefore, since it was something which was considered common, therefore they permitted us to put a utensil underneath in order to accept these sparks, right, which are coming down, and there's no problem whatsoever. So now we're starting Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. Okay, Mem Gimel Amud Aleph says as follows. Okay, so the Gemara says, Eitve. So we're going to ask on Abaye from a Mishnah. Okay, the question that we're going to ask on Abaye, right, from the Mishnah it says, Kofin Ke'ara. This is later on, Kuf Kaf Aleph Amud Aleph. It says, Kofin Ke'ara laner, Kede shelo yochez bakira, which means you're allowed to put a utensil. You're allowed to put a utensil, right, on top of a candle in order that it should not get hold of the korah, of basically the beam in the house. So it comes out that the korah is actually muktzeh. Now he says it's not common that this candle will come and start grabbing fire on the korah, but still the Mishnah permitted you to carry the ke'ara, this pot or whatever you want to call this plate, in order to save the korah, in order to save something which is muktzeh. So the question is going to be here, if it's not common, according to you only if it was common was it going to be permitted. But we just brought down here, it's mashma, you could deduce from here that it's not common, and it's still going to be permitted. So the question is, why is it permitted? So again, the Gemara is going to answer the same thing. We're talking about houses which are very low. So not like nowadays we have very high roofs. We're talking about a very low house. So since the roof was very, very low, what happens is it's shchiach leika. It's very common to have a fire which is going to get onto the beams on the top, and therefore that's why they permitted you. It's considered common, and again, it's going to be an answer for Abaye that anything which was common, they did permit you to come and to move a utensil in order to save, in order that there's no problem of something of getting burnt or things like that. Okay? The next question. Okay, we learned in the Mishnah, Kufnun Aleph Amubet, V'chen korah shenishbera. What happens now if you have a korah of the Bet Abad, which broke? So let me see if I have a picture here and I'll show you. This is Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. Yeah, it says like this. No, I don't have it in here. Okay. It does. Over here. You have it up here. Okay, everyone sees the picture?
Yes.
Okay, so that picture is basically saying over here, it's a korah shenishbera, sumchim ota b'safsal. So if you have this beam which broke, so up here the beam broke. So what do? You take a safsal, a bench, and you put it supporting the beam. Okay, so that's what you're allowed to do. So says the Gemara, okay, korah shenishbera, so a korah of the bait, a korah of the house that breaks, you're allowed to come and take a safsal, a bench, and you're allowed to, right, we're going to support it with this bench. Okay, now it says the Gemara, uvaruchot amita, or with the motot orech ad the miskeret amita, which is, that's the uruchot amita, is the next picture over here. That's called the uruchot amita. Okay, so I could use whether it's this or a bench, which was the first picture up here. You see the bench? These are the legs of the bench. So either I could use a bench or this. I could come and I could use it to support the beam which broke up here. Okay? So now the question that we ask is, again, the same thing. 1 second, korot habayit is muktzeh. Anything which is the building of the house is considered muktzeh. And it's not common that it's going to break. So how does the Mishnah permit us to come and start moving things around for muktzeh? right? Again, we're not talking about the mita is mukse or the safsal is mukse, right? Or beforehand, the keara was mukse and you're putting it underneath the nitzotzot or the sparks, or you're putting it underneath the shemen, the oil. We're talking about that I'm not allowed to use to move something which is permitted for something which is prohibited use. So here it's so too the same thing. If the beams and everything is muktzeh, how could I come and start moving these things, whether it's going to be the bedpost, I think they call it a bedpost in English, or we're going to call it a safsal, which is a bench. How are you going to move it for something which is not common to break? Again,
it doesn't. We cannot say that it's makeh bepatish if we put it under the beam.
No, why would it be makeh? For sure, it's not makeh bepatish. I didn't finish anything off. I'm just supporting it if it doesn't break more. You understand? I mean, this is breaking, but I don't want it to completely break. So what do? I put a bench upwards, and now it's got a support at least. So now it's not going to completely break.
I understand, but I can leave it like that for 10 days, a year. I don't know. People live like this.
You can leave it like that for whatever you want, but if it's for sure, makeh bepatish is when you finish off the final blow to something. Here, it broke. I'm just saving it. I'm just sure it doesn't break more.
Okay.
So the Gemara is going to answer the same thing. We're talking about new korot, new beams. David de pake, that many times it could break because of the tikra on top of it, which means many times you could have a new beam that if you don't know how strong it is to support the weight, sometimes it'll break. So again, since it's common, right, or means that it's common that it could happen. So again, you're allowed to carry all these things for the mukse purpose, because again, it's going to be common. Okay, the last question on Abaye, this is the last question of Abaye on the butte of Rava, right, which comes as follows. Okay, so he comes and he says, Notrin kli tachat adelef b'Shabbat. You're allowed to put a utensil underneath a delef on Shabbat. So basically, you have a leak in the house, let's say, for example, and it's coming from the roof, and you're allowed to put a utensil underneath it on Shabbat in order that all the water will go into this bucket or whatever you want to call it exactly. Okay, in order that the entire house does not get dirty. So now, what we tried to say is, one second, the water which is coming from the roof is usually very dirty and it's not fitting for anything. So it's mukse. Now, it's not normal, right, or at least in our area, it's not normal that you're going to have leaks in the house. Still, the Mishnah came and permitted you to put a utensil there. So the question is, why? At the end of the day, again, you have mukse. And why would I be able to move a utensil for a mukse purpose? That's the last question that we're asking. And again, the Gemara is going to answer the same thing. Says, no, we're talking about it's a new house. And therefore, since it's a new house, it's common to have leaks, which is very interesting. The exact opposite of nowadays. Nowadays, new houses are not supposed to have anything wrong until it becomes old. And then once it becomes old after 20, 30 years, then it starts to leaks. But here's the exact opposite. Here, the older ones are going to have the leaks, right? Are not going to have the leaks. And the newer ones, they have the leaks. Okay? Until here, we're okay? So basically with this, we actually finished off with the explanation of Rabbah according to Rav Chasta, when the Gemara is going to explain about, remember, putting the we're talking about, let's say, the plate on top of the egg. So he said, what's the difference over there between doing that and putting it underneath and accepting the egg? So he said accepting the egg was not common, because he said it wasn't common for the rooster to be on top of a slope, and then the egg will come down and, as it's to accept it, or between putting it on top of it, that people are going to come and start walking on top of it. That was common. That was to answer up all these things. Okay, so until here, we're all clear? Clear as mud, you said, Richard? Okay, good. Rav Yosef Amar. So Rav Yosef comes and he's now going to say another reasoning in Rav Chasta. So again, remember, when we're going back to Rav Chasta, we're always trying to understand why is it that you're not allowed to put a utensil underneath the tarnegolot, underneath the rooster to accept the egg, but you are allowed to put it on top of it to protect the egg that nobody's going to stand on top of it. So Rav Yosef now is going to give us another answer. Rabbah came and he gave us his answer, right? Because he said that it's common or not common. And Abaye started shooting out questions one after another at him. We kept on answering, no, that it is common, it is common, it is common. Now Rav Yosef is going to give you another answer. Rav Yosef Amar, Hainu Tamad Rav Chasta, the reasoning of Rav Chasta is Mishum the Kamabatel Kli Mechano, which is basically the reason why it's going to become Asur is that you're Mevatel the utensil, you're annulling the utensil from that which was ready to be put, which means at the end of the day, the beginning, this utensil could have been used for something. The second that you put it underneath, and now it accepts the egg, now it becomes muktzeh, right? So this is the famous concept of, for example, can I take pits, right? I'm going to eat olives, take the pits and put it inside of an empty bowl. Why? Because at the end of the day, beforehand, I could have used it for something. Now I'm putting pits inside of it. Now it becomes, I annulled it from being used for something else. Or for other things. They even speak about Netilat Yadayim in the morning. Can I put new Netilat Yadayim in the morning inside of this vessel? Because I'm also Vatel Kli Mechano. So the Biur Halacha on that says, no, that it's only Tumah. So it's not really Be'emet making it Muktzeh. Right? But here, Be'emet, you're making it Muktzeh. So now we're going to start asking again a few questions on this Yesod as well. Is that at the end of the day, am I allowed to do this or not? And we also have to understand what is the Yisur exactly of Mevatel Kli Mechano. Okay, there's a whole machloket if whether it's considered soter, is it considered boneh, is it considered this, is it considered that? Because at the end of the day, that's what it says over here. It says here Rashi in another place says that it's like soter velo ke boneh, and Rashi says that it's boneh. So Rashi on Membet Amubet says that it's like boneh, and then some people say that Rashi says later on Kukavchet Amudbet that it's like soter. Because basically what's happening is that if I right now come and I put this egg inside of this utensil, and now I can't use this utensil, I just destroyed this utensil, because now I can't use it on Shabbat. So it's like soter. Other people say it's like boneh, because I just built it, but now I can't do anything with it. So I just built it in its place. So there's a whole machlok there, but okay, fine. So now it says like this. Eit ve'abaye, so Abaye now is going to ask on Rav Yosef, and he says, Chavit shel tevel shnishpera mevi kli acher meniach tachtea. So one second, if you're going to tell me that the Yisur is, right, mevatel kli mechano, why is it that I'm allowed to take a utensil, put it underneath a barrel of wine or oil that broke, that we just learned on the previous Samud, and we said that it's permitted? Now, one second, it was muktzeh. Because if you remember, we said tevel, which is untithed produce, is considered muktzeh. So if it's considered muktzeh, how can I take a utensil and accept in the utensil this? I'm mevatel kli mechano. I'm annulling everything which is going on over here. Right? I'm annulling the entire utensil. So again, it should be asur. So what's the explanation over here? So, right? Why? So he says, the Gemara, no. He says, you know why? Amalei tevel muchanu etzel Shabbat. Why? She mavar v'tikno metukan. He says, no, tevel is not 100% considered mukse. He says, you know why tevel is not 100% considered mukse? Because I could actually eat it. I'm not allowed to fix it midrabbanan. Meaning midrabbanan, I cannot come and take off maaser from another place and put it onto it. However, though, if I did do the yisud drabanan, and I did take off trumot ma'asrot from this tevel, it's metukan, and I'm allowed to eat it. It's fixed. I'm allowed to eat it. So because of that, the fact that I'm going to put a utensil underneath it, it's not considered that I was mevatel kli mechano, because technically speaking, it's not 100% mukse. I'm allowed to. It's the rabbis that they came and they said it's prohibited, so fine. So the rabbis were the ones that said it's prohibited. They said it's prohibited. But technically speaking, it's permitted. And the raya, the proof, if I came and actually did put it underneath it, or I did come and I fix it, I'm allowed to eat it on Shabbat. So therefore, it's not considered 100% mukse. Until here we're clear? Yeah? Then it says, another question. Right? We're going again back on the previous questions that we asked against Rabbah on his answer about Hatzalah, about saving. We're asking the exact same questions, not in the same order, but in the exact same questions on Rav Yosef. And Abaye is asking the same questions again. So what did he say? He says, one second, you're allowed to put a utensil underneath the fire, underneath the candle, in order to receive all of these nitzotzot, in order to receive all of these sparks that are coming out, right? And so now, why are you allowed to do that? At the end of the day, if the sparks are considered muktzeh, right? So now it's going to become, right? It's going to become prohibited. Well, you have there a picture? You have a picture. Richard, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I know, but this is Sammy, the Mishnah, the picture book that Sammy gave me. It's in here.
Hold on one second.
Just the Mishnah.
Very good. On the Mishnah. So that's the, there you go. You have it over there. Everyone sees it? But basically you have the nitzotzot, which are the sparks, which are coming out and they're coming on the plate.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Perfect. Very good. Okay, very good.
That was pretty cool, Rabbi. I didn't know you could do that.
Whoa, you see, I'm teaching you a lot of things here.
Very cool.
Okay, very good. So basically like this now, okay? So what happens now is as follows. So it says here, okay, that again, we ask the question, you're allowed to put the utensil underneath in order to get the sparks. The sparks are muktzeh, mevatel kli mechano. You're annulling the utensil. Answers the Gemara, it's not true. You know why? When the sparks come, what happens to the sparks afterwards? They disappear. So for there's no mamashu, there's nothing tangible. There's nothing there. The sparks come out, disappear. Now you can't use this utensil. You can't use what? There's nothing there. Okay? So therefore, again, it's the same halachot. So then the Gemara is going to ask, we're going back again, backwards. What about the beam that broke? You're allowed to support it with the bed or with the bedpost again, right? With the, not the bed, the bedpost or the safsal, which is the bench. So again, answers the Gemara, dirafe, which means the safsal was placed there very softly, right? Which means that it wasn't tightly put in its place. It was softly put there. Tibai shakile was if you want, you could actually take it away. So the fact that you could take it away, it's not considered mamash that you mevatel kli mechano because you didn't actually annul it. You could take it away whenever you want. You put it there just to support it as a soft support, but it's not really strongly put there. You could take it off whenever you want. Okay, the next question. Again, we asked all these questions. You're allowed to put a utensil underneath the leak on Shabbat from the roof. And we said that the water was dirty, so it's muktzeh. And says the Gemara, no, it's talking about delef ru'i, that we're talking about a leak which was fitting to drink, which means you could actually take this water and drink it. So therefore, it's not considered muktzeh, and therefore it's not mevatel kli mechano. Another case, this I do not recall that we actually learned, right? But you do have the picture here. Over here on the bottom. Okay, so you're going to put the sal, the basket, right? You're going to put it underneath in order that the efrochim, that these birds, these chicks, could come up into their house. Okay? So it says over here, right? Why are you allowed to do that? That they could go up and down from their bird net, from their nest. Why? When you're doing that, you're mevatel kli mechano. So answers the Gemara, he says, no, you're allowed to actually take it even when they're going up and down. There's no problem of taking it even when it's there, right? That means basically you didn't annul it. It's not that the entire Shabbat, it's not like the egg that came there, and the egg is always muktzeh, so you're not allowed to touch it. The second that the efrochim, the chicks are not an actual basket, you can move it around. So the fact that you can move it around, it's not considered, right, that it's mevatel kli mechano. So the Gemara asks, what are you talking about? We just said you're not allowed to move this basket. So says the Gemara, no. Be'odan alav, when the chicks are on the basket, you cannot move the basket, and therefore it's asur. But when the chicks are not on the basket, you could actually turn it around and you can do whatever you want with it. So the fact that you put it there, you weren't mevatel kli mechano, you did not annul the utensil from being used. So says the Gemara, 1 second, I thought we learned mifurash. Even if they're not on there, you're not allowed to move this basket. So how could it be that you're saying that it's permitted? So Amar Rabbi Yavu says Rabbi Yavu, Be'odan alav kol ben hashmashot. No, if they were on the basket the entire ben hashmashot period, then you're right. Why? There's a famous concept called migu dit katzai le ben hashmashot katzai le kuli yoma. There's a migu. The migu is if it became muktzeh during the ben hashmashot period, it became muktzeh the entire Shabbat. And therefore, what happens is that once it became muktzeh through the entire period, so now the entire Shabbat is going to become muktzeh. So if you put it there in the middle of the Shabbat, you're allowed to move it because it wasn't muktzeh the Shabbat, because it wasn't muktzeh during Ben Hashmashot. Ben Hashmashot is what makes it kovea, whether it's going to be muktzeh or not muktzeh. That's what happens. That's the Ben Hashmashot. And the same halacha applies to a lot of things. For example, if money was placed by, let's say, a goy on top of your pillow on Shabbat, it does not become a basis, because in order for it to become a basis for muktzeh, the money is muktzeh, but you could brush it, like you could shake it off. Why? Only if it was there during Ben Hashmashot, during the time frame of the onset of the Shabbat, that's what makes it muktzeh for the rest of the Shabbat. But if it wasn't there the onset of the Shabbat, it's actually permitted. right?
Yeah, but I could, Rabbi, if I'm trying to go to sleep and there's money on my pillow, I could still brush it off or turn the pillow upside down.
You could turn the pillow upside down, but if the money was placed purposely there before Shabbat and you wanted it to be there, the pillow itself becomes a basis, which means
I mean, let's say the maid put it there. Now I want to go to bed. It's like the iPhone. I can't pick the iPhone up.
Because it wasn't you. But if you put it there, it all depends on your mindset on the onset of Shabbat. So sometimes this happens, by the way, that you put money in your pocket, right? And then you forget it there. So the question is, did you really forget it there? Sometimes it happens that you put it in your suit, but you weren't going to wear that suit on Shabbat. So you purposely put it there, and you left it there purposely. So now you can't put on that suit jacket on Shabbat. What's wrong with the suit? Yeah, but you have the money inside. So therefore, the fact that you have the money inside, it's a problem. You understand? But again, everything depends on Ben HaShmashot, on the onset of Shabbat, and it has to be there the entire Ben HaShmashot. If it wasn't placed there the entire Ben HaShmashot, there's no muktzeh. Okay? So says the Gemara, so you're right. It says Rabbi Avu, if the chicks were there the entire Ben HaShmashot on the basket, then you're right. So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, and now we finished off whether it was according to the Shitav Rabbah or whether according to the Shitav Rabbi Yosef. Remember, the Shitav Rabbah was anything which is common, you're allowed to do. According to Shitav Rabbi Yosef, as long as it's not mevatel kli mechano, it's permitted. So says now the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, says Rabbi Yitzchak, כשם שנותנים כלי תחת הנגולת לקבל ביצתה, כך אין כופין עליה כלי בשביל שלא תשווה. Now, Rav Yitzchak comes and he argues on Rav Chasta. We brought down a din of Rav Chasta, and then we had a machloke between Rabbah and Rav Yosef. What was the reasoning of Rav Chasta? Rav Chasta says there's a difference. I cannot put the bowl in order to receive the egg, but I could take the bowl and put it on top. No problem. That's Rav Chasta. Then we had the machloket between Rabbah and Rav Yosef. What's the reasoning? Whether it's because it's mitzuyah, it's common or not common. That was Rabbah. Or Rav Yosef, whether I'm mevatel kli mechano or not, whether I'm annulling the utensil or not. Comes Rabbi Yitzchak and he argues. And now that he's arguing, everything just went out the window. He says the exact same halacha. Everything's asur. Just like I'm not allowed to put a bowl in order to receive the egg, so too I'm not allowed to put the bowl on top in order that it shouldn't break. Okay? So I'm Rabbi Yitzchak, כשם שעבדים כלל תחת הנגולת לקבל בצאתה, כך הם כופין עליה הכלי בשביל שלא תשווה in order that it shouldn't break. So Kasavara comes out that according to Shitat Rabbi Yitzchak, en kli nital al davar nital b'Shabbat. A utensil can only be carried on Shabbat for that which is permissible to be carried. But muktzeh, which is asur to move, you cannot move a utensil for the muktzeh. And therefore, you cannot move a kli heter for the muktzeh. So here, even though the plate in itself is permissible use, it's a plate. The plate is, you're allowed to use the plate on Shabbat. But I cannot move the plate for a not permissible use. Which means here, since the egg is muktzeh, so it's a not permissible use, and therefore I cannot move the plate, which is permitted, for something which is not permitted. I can move it for that purpose of a plate, but nothing else. Right? That's what he says. En kli nital ledavar nital b'Shabbat. The utensil could only be used for that which is movable on Shabbat. That's his yisod. So says the Gemara, so means ve'kolam tiyuvta. 1 second. According to what you just said, Rabbi Yitzchak, what about all the other questions, right? What about the question of the bench, right? Or the boards of the bed posts that you're putting against the roof? Or we had the plate in order to receive all the nitzotzot, the sparks? Or we had the bucket in order to get all the water coming down from the roof? Or all these questions. The Shani, so we're going to answer, no, you needed the space of the utensil, which means the Braitot or the Mishnayot are teaching you that you're allowed to move it, right? Why? Because you're taking it to the place where you wanted to take it there. So since you're taking it to the place that you wanted to take it there, right, and you're going to take it to the place which you want it, so therefore there's no problem. But lechatchila, to move it for the muktzeh, it's asur. Meaning, for me to go out of my way and take a bench and put it there is prohibited. But if anyway I was moving the bench, now I could in the midway, I could in the middle come and put it there and support the beam. That there's no problem. Okay? Makes sense?
But are we allowed to play shenanigans? I heard we're allowed to. They permit us, like with a an iPhone left in the yard, I can say, oh, I want that space. I want to put my chair there.
Halakha l'maaseh, the Mishnah Berurah brings down that we were allowed to. Halakha l'maaseh, you're right. Okay, but we're before the halakha l'maaseh. We're just in the Gemara in his shita. Remember, his shita, we don't pass like it. We pass that you're allowed to. You understand? Okay. Next, Tashema, we're going to bring another question. Whether it's an egg that was born on Shabbat or born on Yom Tov, you're not allowed to carry it, not to cover a utensil, or not to be somech kedamita on it, but you're allowed to put a kli in order that it shouldn't break. So it comes out, right, that what are you allowed to do over here? It comes out that when you have here, look, I have the egg in order to cover a utensil, or I have an egg, right, in order to put the bedpost on an egg. With which mind I'm going to do this, don't ask me, because it's a raw egg. So I don't know how it's not going to break, but this one does make sense. But this one, I don't know how 100% will make sense, but that's just what brought down in the Gemara. Okay, so basically it says, whether it was born on Shabbat or Yom Tov, you're not allowed to use it for even a permissible use. But I could take a utensil, and I could put it on top of it so it shouldn't break. So here it comes out that mefurash not like Rav Yitzchak. So answers the Gemara, Achinami, the same answer. You needed the place of the utensil. You picked it up, and while you're walking by, you said, 1 second, I've got the egg here, it's going to break. Boom. You put the utensil on top, no problem. Tashema, another question. You're allowed to put machzilaot, which are like carpets, on top of stones on Shabbat in order to protect it because of the rain. So now we know the stones are muktzeh on Shabbat. So the question is, how could it be that it's permitted? So answers the Gemara, bavanim kurzalot. We're talking about avanim kurzalot, which is basically stones which are chadot, which are very sharp, which are not muktzeh. Techazin lebeta kiseh, which they're fitting to wipe yourselves in the washroom. So since you're fitting to wipe yourself in the washroom, it's not considered muktzeh. And that's why you're allowed to come and you're allowed to put these carpets on top to protect it, because you could use these stones. You could use it in the washrooms, and that's how they used to use it in order to wipe themselves. Tashema, another question. You're allowed to put it on top of levinim. Right? Now, again, remember, levinim is also bricks, which are fitting for binyan, for building. Right? And again, they're muktzeh. So therefore, how could it be? How could you put these carpets on top in order that they don't get ruined? Answers the Gemara, he says, no, they're leftovers from the building. So since they're leftovers from the building, you could now use it like to lie down upon. You understand? You lie down on bricks. What's the problem? It's like a bed. And therefore, there's no problem. Tashema, another question. You're allowed to put, right? It says over here, you're allowed to come and you're allowed to put a machzelet, a carpet, on top of a beehive on Shabbat. Right? In the sun, because of the sun. Or in the rain, because of the rain. As long as you don't have kavanah to start trapping the bees which are in the beehive. So now the beehive is muktzeh. So how do we permit you again to put these machzelet on top of the carpets on top to protect it? And so the Gemara, is you've got the honey. And because of the honey is not muktzeh. The honey, you could eat it. So the fact that the honey is not muktzeh, that's why you're allowed to put the carpets on top in order to protect it. So Amale Rav Ukva Mimeshan Ravashi, says Rav Ukva Mimeshan to Ravashi, Teinach, this is only going to be good, right? Only to do with, to put a machzelet bimot chama during the summertime, mem gimel amubet, dika dvash, because there's going to be honey, okay? And therefore you're allowed to do it. But bimot geshamim, but in the wintertime, there's no honey. So what are you going to say then? Right? I'm not sure. Somebody knows better. Well, what's reasoning why there's no honey? I guess it's just natural. There's no honey in the wintertime. I guess it's too cold. Okay? So says the Gemara, right? So he says the Gemara, lo nitzrecha, what are we talking about? Ela leotan shte chalot. We're talking about, no, the kavanah is that when we permitted you to come and put the machzelet, the bimot geshamim during the rain season, we're talking about the shte chalot dvash, which were left over throughout the entire winter, which is for the bees. Meaning the bees need to survive. How do the bees survive? We leave over for them chalot dvash, called chalot, right? Which is, bread, but they're basically parts of the beehives. We leave them over in order that they should be able to survive on these beehives. So because we actually leave them over for them, those are what we're talking about during the Milmot HaGeshim. We're not talking about stam, the entire beehives. We're talking about the actual parts of the beehives which still have dvash, still have honey for those bees in order to eat during the winter. So ask the Gemara, says 1 second, those two chalot are muktzeh. And why? But since you designated it for the bees for them to eat it, so now you're not going to eat it. So if you're not going to eat it, it's a muktzeh. So again, you have the same question again against Rav Yitzchak. How could you come and take these carpets and put it on top? It's designated only for the bees, and you're not allowed to eat it. So answers the Gemara, no, you thought about it before Shabbat that you wanted to eat them. So since you pre-designated it before Shabbat to eat it, so there's no problem with muktzeh. So says the Gemara, halo chashi v'layu mai. But what happens if you didn't think about it? What's going to be the halacha? So says the Gemara, it's going to be asur. Right? You're not allowed to, because the be'emet it's muktzeh. So yachiv, so had the tanya actually kaven latzur. So then what's the explanation then that as long as you don't have kavanah to trap the bees? So then say another thing also. But medvarim, when are these words when you thought to eat it? But if you didn't think about them to eat them, it should be prohibited. So why are you coming and now telling me only a rule in trapping the animals, in trapping the bees? What about the rules of itself? You have to designate in order that it's not considered muktzeh. So answers the Gemara, Hakamash Malan comes to teach you, even though you did think about it beforehand, it's a chidush. Even if you did think about it beforehand to eat it, it's still going to be a sul if you're going to trap it. So you have to have kavanah that I don't want to trap these bees. Okay? So says the Gemara, Mani, who is this writer going like? So says the Gemara, Ik Rabbi Shimon, if it's going to be Rabbi Shimon, says 1 second, let mukse. He doesn't hold of mukse. Which means even without thinking about eating these two beehives, these two, not beehives, they're like the combs, I think they're called, right? Even without eating these two combs, it should still be permitted. And if it's going to be like Rabbi Yehuda, even if he doesn't have kavanah, what does that help? Hadavar shouldn't kavanah asur. Something which you do not have kavanah for, it's still going to be asur, because at the end of the day, you're trapping the bees. So what do I care that you don't have kavanah to trap the bees? According to him, davar shouldn't kavanah is asur, not mutar. Everybody understood the question? Okay, it's a very simple question. We're basically saying that who are we going in accordance with? According to Rabbi Yehuda, davar shouldn't kavanah asur. According to Rabbi Shimon, there's no muktzeh. So if it's going according to Rabbi Shimon, even if you didn't have kavanah to eat them, it should still be permitted. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, if you're going to go like Rabbi Yehuda, therefore you had to have kavanah to eat it. 1 second. So then what does it mean that you didn't have kavanah to trap? Even if you don't have kavanah to trap, it's still a sur. So mimanavshach, you've got a problem here. So answers the Gemara, leolam Rabbi Yehuda, mine. Really, be'emet, we're going like Rabbi Yehuda. And so what does it mean then? If we're going like Rabbi Yehuda, that's why you have to have kavanah to eat these two honeycombs beforehand. So then what does it mean that you're not having mind to trap it? Even if you don't have a mind, it's still going to be a sur. It says, no. It means that you're not making it like a trap. You're always going to leave a space in order for it to get out. So therefore, it's not going to be considered that it got trapped on its own.
I remember this from 7 years ago. I want you to know.
Wow, Richard, we're going to have to
I remember leaving the space. I was going to say it a minute ago, and sure enough, I didn't know it was coming up, but there it is.
Very good. Baruch Hashem. So you have it there. So leaving the little space open just gave you the opening that now it's not considered trapped. Okay, very important. Okay, next. Ravashi Amar. Ravashi is now going to come and he's going to say another thing. Miktani bimota chama bimota gishami. Did you say in the summer or the winter? During the days of the summer and during the days of the winter? He says, it said in the sun because of the sun, or the rain because of the rain, Ktani. So what does that mean? We're talking about in the equinox. We're talking about in only in Nisan and only in Tishri. In Tishri in Rosh Hashanah time, in the time of Tishri, or in Nisan in the time of Pesach time, there's always going to be also sun and also rain. There's also going to be honey. So that's what the covenant. We're not talking about the winter time, summertime. We're talking about the time that there's everything. So therefore, there's no problems whatsoever. So according to him, there's always going to be honey, so there's no problem. So Amar Lehud of Sheshat says Rav Sheshat to his students. Huk ve'amnu le Rabbi Yitzchak, go tell Rabbi Yitzchak, kvar tigmar Rav Huna l'shematech. Rav Huna already came, and he already taught your learning, what you're teaching, that a utensil cannot be moved only for that which could be moved itself. Bebavel, Amar Rav Huna, but says Rav Huna, osim mechitza lemet bishvil chai, ve'en osim mechitza lemet bishvil met. You can make a mechitza because of the mechitzah is like the covering, right? Because of a dead deceased person, right? Because of a person that's alive. But you cannot make a mechitzah for a deceased person only because of the deceased person himself. What does that mean? Here, okay, let's first say it. Or here's a picture, which we're gonna see. This is the picture over here. You've got the machzelet on the top, and here's a deceased person. Okay, and then here's also the same thing on the bottom. But let's see what does this mean. So it says like this. It says, what is this referring to? Right? Maihi. What are we talking about exactly? The Amar of Yeshua bar Yehuda says of Yeshua bar Yehuda. Echen Tana Shila Mare. It's also we taught of Shila Mare. Meta mutal b'chama abayim shne bnei adam yeshvim mitzido. When if a deceased person is in the sun, two people come and they sit down beside the deceased person. Cham lahem milamata, when it's very hot on the bottom. Ze mevi mitav yoshev alea. Each one is going to bring a bench and sit down on it. And the other one is going to bring a bench and sit down on it. Cham lahem lamala. Then when it's going to be hot for them on the top, what do? They bring a machzelet and they put it on top of them. Ze zokef mitato v'nishma ve'olech. Then what's going to happen is that one of them is going to move, right, his bed and he's going to leave. And the other one is going to move his bed and he's going to leave, right? And then you read the mechitza on its own, which means this was the case. At the beginning, each one, it was hot on the bottom. They're sitting on the floor. So each one brings a bench. They each one sit down. Then the sun is on the top. They bring the machzelet. Then each one is allowed to leave. When each one is allowed to leave, they tilt their benches. And then the mechitza is done on their own. And they have the mechitza here on the bottom. You see, the benches are tilted on each side. And the machzelet is on the top. And it's protecting the deceased person that he's put in the sun. Okay? So then the Gemara says, so that's just to understand what does that mean. So it says, Itmar,
it would seem that human dignity is coming to play here.
100% human dignity is coming to play here, but we're going to have to see. Let's see what it means. Right? That's why we're allowed to do it, obviously. Okay? So says the Gemara, right, as follows. Itmar, it was stated, Meta mutal b'chama. When you have a deceased person that's placed in the sun, Rav Yehuda Mashmuel says, in the name of Shemuel, you could turn him over from one bed to another bed until he gets to the tzel, until he gets to the shade. Rav Chanina bar Shlamya mishmed Rav Amar. Rav Chanina bar Shlamya says the name of Rav. Meniach alav kikar o tinok u'metaltelo. You could place on top of him a piece of bread or a child, and then you can move him. Right? The $1 million question, where do we see this concept? About putting a kikar o tinok on top of someone, of a deceased, and carrying him.
Yaakov?
No, we just recently. Masechet Shabbat. I think it was around 13 dapim ago. No, Richard.
It must be moving candles by they say a wife puts her ring, a wedding ring on the thing, the basis for the candlesticks. No?
Story with somebody. Anybody else? Binyamin.
I don't remember.
I need a hint.
A hint. So it's talking about that somebody that was very wise asked the question. And he said that it's better a dog which is alive from an ali, which is dead, which is from a lion that's dead.
Ah, yes. Yes.
Who's that?
Yes. And so?
I don't remember who, but...
Dead. The dogs are hungry of David HaMelech, but his father is in the sun. So he said, to do with the dogs, they answer the dogs first. They said, to do with the dogs, cut nebelot and give it to the dogs. To do with the father, cut up metaltelo alidei kikar o tinok. It's in the first one. Not even in the second one. You guys remember or not?
Yes.
I do not remember.
Now you remember.
You're not saying better a live dog than a dead lion, are you?
Yeah, that's what I just said. He said...
But what does that have to do with carrying a corpse? I mean,
It says over here like this. Listen carefully. It says, Daf Lamed Amud Bet. He says, he sent Shalach Shlomo lebe Midrashal, Daf Lamed Amud Bet, 30b. Abba met, his father is dead, Umutal b'chaman, he's in the sun. Uklavim shebet Abba revim. And the dogs of the father's house, they're hungry. I say, what am I going to do? So Shalchu le, they sent to him, Chatoch nevela, cut an animal, a nevela, and put it in front of the dogs. Ve'avicha, and your father, Hanach alav kikaro tinok. Place on top of him a piece of bread or a child, v'tiltilo. Right? Velo yafe amar Shlomo, so isn't it good what Shlomo Melech said? Ki lakelev chai hu tov min ha'aryeh hamet, that it is better a live dog than an aryeh hamet, than a lion which is dead. Why? Because they mentioned, right, they answered on the dog before they answered on David HaMelech. No, I'm trying to get you guys to remember Gemarot. We just learned it 13 days ago.
Well, I don't remember. I knew about the loaf of bread.
Yes, I do.
Okay, very good. Now, I'm glad you remembered. Let's continue. So basically, this is the same shita. You're going to place on it a bread or a tinok, and then you're going to carry it. So, where there's going to be a loaf of bread or a tinok, everyone agrees that it's permitted. When is a machloket, if you don't have a kikari tinok, you don't have a child, you don't have a piece of bread. More savar, so one of them holds that you're not allowed the tiltul minatzad shne tiltul. That if you're going to start moving them over from one bed to another bed, it's called tiltul, and therefore it's tiltul mukse. More savar, and the other one held, it's not considered tiltul, and therefore you're allowed to start moving him over by the side, from side to side, from one bed to another bed until he gets to the shade. So says the Gemara, this is a very famous machloket, by the way, tiltul minatzad. This is the halacha, by the way, you should know. I don't have keys on me now. But for example, let's say I took keys.
Well, who says it's famous?
What's famous?
Who's in this machloket? Who said this machloket is famous?
Tiltul minatzad is a machloket, but we paskin that it's mutar. But for example, let's say I have car keys, which are attached to my house keys. Can I carry them on Shabbat? So if I'm going to carry the car keys because of the house keys, that's called tiltul minatzad. So tiltul minatzad is permitted. So that's what we just said. It's a machloket here. But this is, so it says the Gemara, why don't we just say it's machloket tanaim? Right? It says, En matzilina tamet mipnei adleka. You're not allowed to save a deceased person because of a fire by taking him out. Amar Rav Yehuda ben Lakish says, Rav Yehuda ben Lakish, Shamati shematzilina tamet mipnei adleka. I heard that you are allowed to come and save the met because of the dleka. Hechi dami, what's the case? Idika kikaro tinok. If it's going to be that you have a kikaro tinok, which is basically a child or a bread, right? Then the might talk about the Tanakama. Why did Tanakama say you're not allowed to? Why not? Be delek, if you don't have a kikari tinok, what's the reasoning of Yehuda ben Lakish? He says that he's permitted. But rather, this machloket was the same machloket that it says here. Tiltul minatzal pliga. The machloket is tiltul minatzal considered tiltul or not? Meaning by my carrying something by the way, meaning derech agavs, like by something else, is that considered tiltul carrying or not? Tanakama, more savar, the Tanakama holds that tiltul minatzal is considered tiltul. And therefore, he said that you can't come and start moving it from one place to another place, another place. But more savar, Rav Yehuda ben Lakish holds that it's still considered titul, and therefore it's going to be permitted. So therefore, we see that there's a machloket tanaim. It's not only a machloket that we just said over here to do with the deceased of moving him from one bed to another bed. It's a machloket tanaim between Tanakam and Rav Yehuda ben Lakish. So answers the Gemara, no. According to everybody, it's considered titul. The reason Rav Yehuda ben Lakish is why. Since a person is very worried about his deceased, you're not going to permit him to move him. You're going to turn off the fire mifurash. Remember, in the olden days, you weren't allowed to turn off a fire. Nowadays, the fire is very dangerous and it could cause deaths very easily. So for right away, you turn off a fire. But once upon a time, they were in the fields. A fire starts on Shabbat. Let it burn down the entire house. You're not allowed to do anything. You could save a few things, this and that, but you're not really allowed to do anything. You have to let it burn. So here, a person was worried, what? They're going to let their deceased get burnt up in the fire. They would turn off the fire. So because of that, they were more mekel, they were more lenient, just in order that, therefore they permitted you to do tiltul minatzad, even though usually it's a sur, just because if not, you would turn off the fire. So Amar Rav Yehuda were memdala demudalef. Amar Rav Yehuda ben Shilo, Amar Rav Asi, Rav Yochanan says Rav Yehuda ben Shilo, Rav Asi ben Yochanan, L'chak Rav Yehuda ben Lakish bemet. L'chak like Rav Yehuda ben Lakish do with the deceased person. That you are allowed to move him out because of the dleka, because of the fire. Okay? Nekuda. We finished that. Let's just get to the Mishnah. It's just another 2 lines. So we said that you're not allowed to benefit from any of the oil which came into the utensil which is below it. So you had the oil which is dripping into a utensil below the fire, so below the candle, so you're not allowed to benefit from it. Why? Because it's not prepared before the Shabbat. So Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita, Motar Hashemen shebeneh v'shebeke'ara, any leftover oil which was in the candle or in this little tiny bowl or dish, asur is going to be prohibited even to carry it. And Rabbi Shimon says it's going to be permitted to carry it. Right? Obviously, we'll try to go over this again, just last two dots, Bezrat Hashem on Sunday. But now, Bezrat Hashem, we just finished Shabbat Daf.